The days are longer, the calendar is filling up, and I want to feel as good as this beautiful summer weather. That's why I've been loving Groons. It's one daily pack of gummies that covers my greens, vitamins, and minerals, and even has 6 grams of prebiotic fiber. So I don't need to juggle a complicated wellness routine on top of everything else. They taste amazing. They're easy to toss in my bag on the go. Plus, they're vegan, gluten-free, and HSA, FSA eligible for reimbursement. Save up to 52% off with promo code podcast at gruns.co. That's code podcast at gruns.co.
Hi, everyone. This is Dawn Mitchell, and welcome to Dawn of Sports. This week, Jim Souhan and I have an amazing guest, Andrea Yoch. You've heard of her. I know this for sure. We have a litany of a list on her resume, but I call her marketing guru, and she is the founder, one of the founders of Minnesota Aurora. If you have not heard of them, I'm sure you have. If not, you might want to buy a ticket. And if you're not in Minnesota, fly out and see them. It's amazing the groundswell of what women are doing here in the state. We're also going to talk Kirk Cousins, his injury, the trade, the new quarterback, and more.
So we've had great guests already on Dawn's show. Today we're going to have a guest spend the entire show with us because she's a friend of ours and she knows everything about everything, and she might as well chime in and tell us we're wrong whenever we're wrong. Andrea Yoch is our guest for this show. She's going to join in as we talk about the Minnesota sports world, and then we'll talk to her specifically about Minnesota Aurora and women's sports later in the show. Dawn, you've been friends with Andrea for a long time. And we were just talking about it. The Kirk Cousins news. I've been doing this a long time. I have a certain amount of scar tissue built up. I have a certain amount of emotional distance I place between myself and my subjects. I'm not a fan. I'm not going to go break down when the team loses a game. And yet, when I walked into that locker room on Sunday afternoon and saw all these 300-pound grown men crying, and they had just won a game, dominating a game in Green Bay, which doesn't happen that often. They had won their third straight game. They're back in the playoff race. And it really felt like a funeral. And I felt sad. I usually don't have that reaction to the teams I covered. I felt sad. I was wondering what each of your reactions were.
Well, I think Brian O'Neill said it the best after that, to paraphrase what he was saying, is like, you don't understand. I think people on the outside don't understand how well loved he is and how much of a leader he is and what he means to us. And Jim, you and I see that on a daily basis, that especially in the last 2 years, these guys love Kirk. And we got to see a little bit more of his personality emerge under Kevin O'Connell and it's not just, he coaxed him out and Zimmer couldn't. Kevin's and Kwesi's, their whole vibe with the whole team is different. They don't speak down to each other. They don't cuss each other out. Like, there's just some gentlemanly rules that people are, and there's been a difference in the locker room and in the whole organization, I would say. But with Kirk specifically, he's blossomed. And I know he's had it already, but we get to take part in it, where it's even his repartee with the media. Well, I'm glad you brought that up. And then he'll tell a personal story where he would never do that before. Part of that is now he's comfortable in the organization. He's been there a couple of years. He's okay with, all right, the business on the field. So now I can be myself maybe a little bit more. But to see the players react that way, it's you do feel bad. And the funny thing is, talking to the guys in the locker room yesterday, where they said on the plane, it was Josh Metellus, on the plane, Kirk was his normal self. He being carted off. He was going, let's go offense. And he said, that's how I was on the plane. I talked to him a long time and he was upbeat. He was the same. And he said, and that's Kirk. Like, through anything that's a challenge, through anything, he is still the same guy. So that's hard to walk the walk, isn't it?
Well, and what struck me yesterday, I had no idea, or on Sunday, how little he has missed.
Yeah,
because of an injury. So
never because of an injury.
Yeah, I grew up watching Cal Ripken Jr. and
Iron Man, right?
Yeah, you don't see that longevity. And so when I read that somewhere, shortly after he left the game. That to me was heartbreaking, because if you've been so dependable, whether or not people like you or don't like you, this is what you do every single week is you get up, you go play football, you lead the team. And then just to be out like that. And both you and I had serious leg injuries this year.
Mm-hmm.
And so then my brain went to having broken my leg earlier. Now Kirk's 20 years younger than me, and he's going to have, amazing medical care, which we do too. But that road back to me, that was the next thing was like, oh, wow, he's 36. What is he going to want to do? And I hope that that's not going through his mind right now. There's still a lot of football left, but it was that longevity when I saw his streak of games played, and then just to mentally just be like, when I fell off my bike, it just changes. You think you're going out Saturday night, and next thing you know, you're at TCO emergency, getting x-rays. And so thinking about what Kirk maybe had planned for this week, he talks a lot about taking his kids to school. It's like, you're not driving anywhere for a while.
Right. But he was already last night at the Vikings
I saw
Halloween
that on his scooter.
Yeah. Signing autographs, being Kirk. I mean, he walks the walk. And I think, all the people that didn't like him, he's getting overpaid or he's not our quarterback. I think since they've seen a little bit more, now they're like, wow, what have we lost? It's like, yeah.
Well, and I'll count myself. I wasn't a hater, but the first time I ever saw him come to speak to a sports business group, he was so stiff and so straight laced. And it wasn't quite boring, but it wasn't interesting. The last time I saw him, probably last fall, he was so funny. And I was like, is this actually the same person? He was cracking jokes. He told the group, I think his Culver's is his go-to after game meal. And he was talking about the double cheeseburger, large fry. He was just so relaxed and so different. And so I came around to even like, okay, he's fun. He has size. And then we saw him at the Twins game, at the playoff game. He was in our section, and that was really fun just to see him out there. So I've come around too on him as a personality. And that was definitely hard to watch on Sunday.
Yeah.
It was. Just by way of introduction, Andrea, the founder of Minnesota Aurora, which I always refer to as one of the great Minnesota sports stories of all time.
Amen.
And she's worked with the Loons, she's worked at Care TV, worked at K-Fans. What's your current title? Because I can't keep up with all the things you do. You work with Chris Hockey's band, you work with Rocket Club. How would you describe your this moment in your career?
So technically, I'm just a freelancer at this moment
That's
in my
such
career.
A lousy description.
I know. I'm sorry, but I currently work on projects to get more attention for the brand or the people or whatever project I'm working on. So for Aurora, I am chair of the board and am moving out of the day-to-day, which we can talk about later, which is very exciting. And so I pick up projects for people that I enjoy and work with. I'm at that point in my career where I don't have to do anything I don't want to do anymore. And sometimes it's music, and sometimes it's sports, and sometimes it's vodka, and everything in between.
She's being polite. She is a marketing guru.
Yes.
Right. And
well, there are some people who freelance because they can't get a job, and there are other people who freelance because they know that they can do better than just sitting in a cubicle someplace.
Well, you form your own company.
Yep.
You do what you like to do. And so,
you work for the people you want to work for. That's the most important thing for me.
Isn't that what the definition of success is?
Yeah.
And I want to toot her horn a little bit more because we're all about peeling back the layers here on the show. We both went to Boston College. I don't know if you have heard of that. We say it all the time.
You should have put money down, Jim, on how long that was going to take us
took
to
way
bring up.
longer than I expected.
I was just waiting for it. And it's not only that we have that bond, but ever since I got here to Minnesota and we knew of each other, then we finally met. I think you're at WCCO at the time. To see you not only start your own company, to take on international soccer, to take on Chad Greenway's Grey Duck, to take on Chris Hockey. These are things that people know about because of you. And then during COVID, when most of us, my goal was to learn how to drink whiskey because I didn't have an adult drink other than red wine. I'm like, I am not a big drinker, but I'm like, when I go out, I'm like, red wine or what? Or vodka soda or water. Like, that's it. And so my friend said, you need an adult drink. So my goal was to drink whiskey. Your goal was to create, not only bring a soccer team here to Minnesota, but to create a brand new way of thinking for people and to really energize the mindset that it's not just let's empower young women and girls, let's get the men behind it too and the young boys. So I just have to say, I'm so, first of all, I want to say proud of you, but just in awe of you that you're like, I know, let's go out. We went out to brunch. We had our masks on and you're like, don't tell anyone, but I think I'm going to buy and bring a soccer team. And then I'm going to open it up and have people buy into it and they own it. And rather than what, I was like, really? I leaned in. And now we see it. It came to fruition, your dream. So I don't think you give enough credit because you are humble, but I'm going with guru.
Thank you.
That's what I'm going with.
That's good work.
I've been lucky to be in the right place, surrounded by the right people for a long time. And Aurora is very much a we, like none of that was done by myself. There was a whole group of us. And when you gather like-minded people together that are passionate, you can get a lot done. Yes, did we have extra time on our hands? Me in particular, because if your specialty is sort of event marketing and gathering large groups of people together, and then COVID hits, nobody can gather together. So it wasn't that smooth, especially if you ask my adult children who had to move home, and there was a lot of mom screaming, and I'm pretty even-tempered, but those first few months. So thank God for them that Minnesota women's soccer came around, because we may be a split household now.
All right, so we are going to get more into the Aurora story lately. Just to reintroduce the show, this is Dawn of Sports, and we are brought to you by All Energy Solar, allenergysolar.com. Also brought to you by Rudy Luther Toyota, always a big supporter of this network, of women's sports being talked about on this network. We really appreciate them. Let you know the best way to listen to this show or any show at talknorth.com is to subscribe to your favorite podcast app. So go there. First of all, subscribe to this show. Then go to talknorth.com. There will be something you care about. We cover all the sports. We have outdoor shows. We have variety shows. Pretty much cover everything, and we keep growing, because you listen and you support us, and we do appreciate it. Brandon Morton is our producer, as he has been for so long, and we've had great guests on this show. Before Andre, we had Chad Greenway, Jim Cott, Jack Jablonski, Mark Rosen, Mike Tirico, and we have a bunch of great guests lined up. Laura Oakman was last week, and as we promised, we wanted, we had a few people we wanted to knock off, but now that we're well into this,
sounds really vicious.
That probably didn't phrase it particularly right. I mean, there are people.
It is Halloween.
There are people I would knock off, but the people I would knock off are not the people we've had on the show. So I probably misused the phrase.
I need to go get some protection in here.
Yeah, well, no, it's not you. Everybody in this room is safe, at least for now. But no, we had some great guests we wanted to get to immediately because they were, big influences on Dawn's early career. But we also, as promised, we want to get to women's voices as often as possible. Laura Oakman was great last week. Andrea, obviously, we've always talked about her. And again, we'll get to more of her story. Back to the Vikings. We are talking here right before the trading deadline on Tuesday afternoon. Mm-hmm. And the Vikings traded for Josh Dobbs. They basically exchanged low-round draft picks with Arizona to get a quarterback who is at least more experienced than Jaron Hall. They also traded Ezra Cleveland for a low-round draft pick, which is a sign they really like Dalton Reisner, and a sign they like Ed Ingram more than I think most of us thought they should like Ed Ingram. But I do think he's played better. I hated the way he played last year. He is getting better. The offensive line's getting better.
He's young.
And he is young. Sometimes young people don't get any better. That's the catch. But in his case, I actually think his second year he is getting better.
And you bring up Dalton Reisner. I really, the last couple of games, I really love him as a person in terms of how he's fit in quickly with the players. But that's when you're seeing Kirk have more protection. That's when you're seeing the run game the run game, let's be honest, is not on fire.
It is not.
Which is still a problem when your starting quarterback goes down.
Yes, it is.
And you need to run the ball. That Sunday we were watching the game and it was why are you guys throwing the ball right now?
Yeah.
Please run it. But if the run game's a problem, that's not a solution.
So it'll be interesting how they, can do that. So, and if you're going to have a guy I don't know much about Josh.
All I know, my 24-year-old who's in about 5 fantasy football leagues texted me when the trade went through, super excited.
Really?
So if the 24-year-old fantasy football mind is any indication, then Josh has him excited?
Well, he's probably a better fantasy player than
Oh,
real
that
player
may be than a real
because
player.
he's in fantasy football, running quarterbacks have an edge,
Exactly.
That's true.
and he is he's athletic. I think he's smart. I think he's athletic. He has experience. Now his statistics are not good. I think he was about to lose his starting job in Arizona, and his team is bad. So this is not a savior. This is, to me, this is a very good job of the Vikings of avoiding either extreme. If they had traded away major assets to get a quarterback, then they're screwing themselves for the future. If they had not brought in another quarterback, then they're handing the season to Jaron Hall, who hasn't played in the NFL and might not be ready to play in the
And
NFL.
who most of us didn't even know his first name until he stepped out onto the field on Sunday.
Yes.
Well,
So,
you can also ruin a young guy by putting him in that situation and not bring him along. We've
if he's
seen
not
that
ready.
in the league.
Yes.
Exactly.
So I think they did a nice job of not mortgaging the future, getting somebody who can play the position, who will give them a fighting chance. So it's not an exciting move, but it's probably a logical move.
I can't even imagine what Kwesi Adolfo-Mensah's last 36 hours. Right? He's watching the game Sunday. Things are going pretty well. The trade deadline's coming. He's thinking about things. And then whoosh, your whole, it's not like he had weeks to prepare for trying to figure out for a quarterback. He had at 2:00 Sunday afternoon until today.
Yep.
So I'm sure he hasn't slept. I'd like to see what his desk looks like right now. But that's what's crazy to me is now whatever it was he was planning on doing for the trade deadline, just gone.
Yeah.
The whole season changed.
And the Cleveland move is not as big a deal, but he's a pretty good player, and they traded him for a low-round draft pick, and they don't have anybody under contract at that position now because Reisner's signed a 1-year deal.
Right.
So it makes you wonder, do they feel like they're going to sign Reisner long-term? Do they have confidence they can fill? Because the offensive line is just starting to play now.
Right.
And now you don't really necessarily have your future locked up at the position. Maybe they have something in the works. That's so fascinating. The great thing about the Vikings, the great thing about the NFL, they can't help but be interesting. Look at all the stuff we're talking about here. It's amazing.
I am not a prognosticator, but I did have a really bad feeling, and I said that. I said I have a really bad feeling when Nick Mullins went on IR with a back injury. And people are like, well, why? I mean, it's Nick Mullins. I go, I just have a bad feeling because, yes, every team, I said, but we're one injury away from disaster. And like every team is. And I said, not when your backup quarterback is gone, right? I don't know. And people are like, look at some of my friends now were like, did you make this happen? I'm like, I didn't say something was going to happen. I just said that move made me nervous.
But also, how much faith did anybody have in Nick Mullins in the first place?
Well, the thing about Nick is at least he has started meaningful games.
He's taken snaps
in the NFL.
Well,
and he won some games.
This offense is complicated, so he knows the offense, right? So if you need just a game manager or a guy that can hand off the ball, this is the one thing I want to see about this guy coming in to see if Dobbs. They say he's smart. It's going to be hard. They're going to have to.
They're going to have to simplify though, right? For this
they're
weekend,
going to make it basic a little bit. Yep.
And I think you hit on it. I think if Nick Mullins were completely healthy, then maybe they try to get through this week with Jaron Hall, and then they know that Mullins is waiting. But the way O'Connell talked about Mullins on Monday in that press conference, O'Connell doesn't he's not blunt,
but he's honest.
He always, if you listen closely, he gives you information.
Yep.
And the way he talked about Mullins on Monday, you go, okay, he's not coming back quick.
Like they're going to make a move. Especially when he said, is it short term or is it long term? Like he's honest.
Well, and then if you throw in the Justin Jefferson and you're thinking about quarterbacks, it's like, okay, are we worried about having someone that can throw if JJ's not actually going to come back?
Yeah. I think he'll come back by the New Orleans game. That's just my guess.
I really think it's a legitimate concern for Viking fans. Okay, what's Justin Jefferson thinking? They didn't sign him to a long-term deal. Now he doesn't have his quarterback.
Oh, you mean come back, like sign.
Right.
I thought you meant come back like in the time from the injury.
No,
yes. That's a whole nother level that we're talking about.
They're such super healers.
Yes,
I mean, even if you watch Aaron Rodgers was, throwing passes or whatever on Sunday from his Achilles, it's like, okay, what did he get that I didn't get when I broke my leg?
I really do think Jefferson will come back as soon as he can this year because I think he's a competitor. I think he wants to play. I think he wants to build a Hall of Fame resume. So I don't fear him sitting out as some people fear. I also believe the Vikings will get the deal done. I just
I do too.
I just do.
I hope so.
And
He's so much fun to watch.
Yeah.
And who knows? This could be another situation like a Case Keenum, okay, where you have great weapons on offense. Now you have a guy that can scramble, right? If he needs to hand off the ball, the running game has got to step up, right? The offensive line has got to step up. But as we even saw last week, like, gosh, when they can get it all together, just you don't even have to tear it up like Dalvin Cook did. Just advance the ball a little bit, then start hitting guys like, at tight end. I think even Josh Oliver had the thing, but you get Hawk going, you get KJ. So you get all the J's. You get TJ, JJ, KJ, get them all going. You just need somebody that can get the keys in their hand and start up this offense.
And hold on to the football.
And that's a whole different ball of wax.
All right, let's talk briefly about the Timberwolves.
Mm-hmm.
I hate to say this because Chris Finch to me is the most likable person in the organization. I really like him as a human being, but this team has played like a poorly coached team so far this season offensively. I think the defense is actually better. Gobert looks really good. You have Anthony Edwards, great player. You have Karl-Anthony Towns, great offensive player. You have Mike Conley, veteran point guard. You have talent on the bench. And they have gone long stretches of each of the 3 games looking like they don't know how to play offense, and it's starting to bother me.
Really?
Yes.
Well, I think it's a problem when, let's take the Miami Heat game, right? The home opener. When Nas Reed, I love Nas, right? What does he say? There's bumper stickers now that say honk if you love Nas Reed.
At Parkway Pizza up by John Krasinski's house, there's a big sign. We love Nas. Honk if you love Nas Reed. Yeah. He's become a cult figure.
He is awesome.
Yeah.
He should not be your leading scorer off the bench. I'm happy that he was.
He saved that game.
They had a 9-0 Nas Reed run at one point. Like he saved the team on that game. Now, all of your starters, yes, we're all in double figures, but you're gonna need, and I know it's the beginning of the season. My friends are like, calm down. It's only the second game, Dawn. It was only the home opener. But I'm kind of with you, but I also think that it's just like any pro sports right now. This is still preseason. I always say the first month or so when a season gets going on pro sports now, it's still the preseason in my mind.
It is, but I think from a marketing, like when I look at it from a marketing standpoint, this is the most crowded time of year. And so if you're going to capture those fans and hope that they're still going to be there in the dregs of January and February, which to me in basketball season is like the hardest time. Like you get very excited at the beginning. In baseball season in July, going to sit at Target Field is a fabulous thing. So you're not really worried about it. But in January and February, if you're going to haul yourself downtown, you want to know that the team is playing well. And so when I look at it from a fan standpoint, it's like, oh, if you don't start off hot or you look like you're going to collapse, do I really, how much do I care about going to the game, right? Mm-hmm. Buying tickets to the game, going downtown. Whereas then if you got the Wild who are playing on the same nights, are playing well, and you get all the drama with the Vikings. There's just a lot. And I saw that the Gopher UMD hockey game is sold out Friday night, right? Gopher volleyball is playing really well. Football, has all sorts of things happen. So that's where on the Timberwolves, it's like, oh, you guys starting out hot may not matter towards the end of the season.
Right.
But I think it does matter in the hearts and minds of the market and capturing that attention.
I just think this is a team that should know how to play together. They had a good preseason. It's the same group they had last year, and they look like they don't know how to play offense, and that bothers me. The ball just doesn't move. They're taking bad shots. The bad shots are leading to bad defensive transition because you're out of position. This team should know how to play offense by now, and maybe it'll get better. Sure, and we're all going to give it a chance. I'm not saying Chris Finch should be fired tomorrow. I'm saying that if this team's going to play like this, he will be on the hot seat sooner rather than later.
Yeah, I agree. And nothing sticks in my craw. I mean, like missed shots, yes. Do not miss free throws. I played high school basketball, and if you missed a free throw, you ran.
But did you feel the same way about the extra point, though, in football? Like, every time we miss one, I'm like,
well, but see,
it's all you have to do all week is practice.
There's no wind, right? There's no
wind, there's no holder, there's no snap.
There's nothing, right?
There's no rush.
That's just you. Yeah. And you it's inexcusable to me on the NBA level. That's what I always say. And I'm like, doink, what?
A lot going on in the world of hockey. The death of Adam Johnson, and I had two immediate reactions. One is, this is a tragedy, and the other was, I can't believe it doesn't happen more often. You have people just flying around with skates in the air all the time. I'm just shocked. I'm happy it doesn't happen more often, and it doesn't lessen this tragedy, but I'm just shocked it doesn't happen more often.
I remember this is going to date myself a little bit, but being an intern and watching Clint Malarchuk. If you remember that name.
Yeah, I do.
Clint Malarchuk catching a skate and hitting his jugular. And as an intern watching that game, and we're getting what is called a backhaul feed, which means you're getting clean video coming right from the production truck. And they're rewinding it and going forward. So no one at home is watching this. And I do not have a queasy stomach. Four brothers, rough and tumble, bloody knees, you get it. They were showing the spurt go forward and backwards, right? Because they were trying to be like, is this too graphic to show? Yes. So they didn't show it, but I saw it. And so immediately when I heard about Adam, I did not know that he had passed because people still didn't know. I was queasy all over again because I remember I almost lost my lunch watching that back and forth. I had to excuse myself from the room. And I later met Clint Malarchuk in my life. He's wonderful. And then he's written a book. He's had some issues as you go past like that. But he had if I'm recalling this correctly, a Vietnam doctor or medical specialist was working and at that game and saved Clint's life. Everything happened, but I think this was more severe. I don't want to go into details, but there was no chance that Adam would survive.
And also, I think wasn't Clint playing in pro, like he was playing at a high level in hockey when that happened?
Yeah, but this is the over there in England, it's still a high level, very high. Those pros that are playing overseas, yes.
No, I'm saying as far as medical care and immediate treatment. And I'm not saying anybody maybe would have done anything wrong, but I'm just saying in an NHL game,
correct.
Even like with Kirk on Sunday, it's like you're seeing the best of the best taking care of them.
And quickly.
And right? It has
but
to be
they even
quickly.
said, even on the NHL level, Clint would not have survived if this guy did not have that kind of triage, boom kind of training. What I am upset with, and we talked about, we're going to bring up a thing called FTG going up. And this reminds me, Jim, this is what I'm talking about. The group of people, because yes, the guy that hit into him, they're kind of having it was not a good play, but that's hockey, right? That's just hockey. The groups of people, so FTG to the groups of those people that are on this guy and blaming him for his death. Now,
and also want a criminal investigation launched. It's like they're playing hockey with sharp skates.
And like to Jim's point, I am amazed that it does not happen more often. You see the goaltenders, they all have like it's not even all of them, but they'll have that little plastic plate that comes down. But the players don't. They didn't even want to wear shields for the longest time.
Well, when I interned for the North Stars way back when, they weren't wearing face shields.
She has worked for everybody.
I have worked for everybody. It's because I can't keep a job. But I can remember them. Nobody, Bobby Smith would come off the ice, no face shield, and you'd see scars on his faces, but no face shield.
I remember being up close to Bobby Clark when he got hired as a general manager here, and he just had
scars he's got one
everywhere, and some big ones. But if you look closely, there are a lot of little ones too. I mean, by the way, FTG is going to be a frequent, if not constant, segment on here. We're not going to tell you what FTG means. I think you'll figure it out as we go forward. I don't really have an FTG today. I can't top Dawn's, so we're going to stick with that one.
Sorry for just blurting it out.
No,
because I was like, that reminds me. We're talking about it.
Yes.
Yes.
And this is so typical of my job, of Dawn's job, of the reality of working in sports in the Twin Cities. As we're sitting here, more Vikings news comes out because Vikings news comes out every 5 minutes. This is
and I think the deadline's at 3. So
yeah, it's not. This is not a deal, but it's just a comment. Kevin O'Connell, who was not scheduled to talk today, did talk because of the trade. And, the group out there was asking about Cousins' future. And Kevin O'Connell basically said that I love Kirk Cousins and I want him back. Because one of the assumptions you could have made is, okay, Kirk Cousins, 35, without a contract, going to have to rehab until next July or August. Don't know if he'd be ready to start a season. I really thought the way this organization was headed before this injury, they were going to bring Kirk back. They were going to try to make a decent
I
deal,
agree.
but they were going to bring him back. I think when they first took over the team, I think Kwesi's idea was, I'm going to find the next Patrick Mahomes. We'll stick with Cousins until then, and then we'll go find the next Patrick Mahomes. I think things have changed. They've seen how hard it is to develop a young quarterback, how risky it is to hand your franchise to a young quarterback, and Cousins has overachieved. He's played great the last year and a half. He's also, as Don said, I think he's become much more of a leader and much more of a loved person. Instead of a liked person, I think he's now a loved person in the organization. So Kevin O'Connell is basically saying, I want the guy back, which is, to me, it's logical, but it's also fascinating that he just come out and say it right now.
It is fascinating to me. But if you go back, and Jim, you'll know this, if you've noticed their relationship change, just how he calms Kirk down, which you would think would be the other way, right? Because Kirk, like you said before, is buttoned up and this and that. And like some people at first said, well, he's robotic. Well, no, he's processing this new system. He's had so many different offensive systems, and he is a perfectionist. So just this past week, KO was talking about, you know what? All Kirk talks about is what he did wrong against the Niners. He's so hard. When you have a coach saying he's harder on himself than he should be, and is Kirk going, all I'm remembering is the bad things, they balance each other out. Normally, it's the coach saying, you're doing this and this and this, you need to step it up. So just kind of that mindset away from it. But when you look down the line, top 10 quarterback, I know people are saying he's 13 or whatever. You don't throw away a top 10 quarterback who is as accurate as he is. Oh, you look to protect him. He's not going to be a Patrick Mahomes. He's not going to be a scrambler. He's not going to be that way. But what he is he's going to be a darn really good, accurate thrower and smart. So you protect that until maybe, you're in a position to get the next god of quarterbacking.
And it also makes
sense. Here
in
Minnesota?
It also makes sense if you're trying to if you're trying to re-sign Justin Jefferson, it would really help you say, we're going to keep Kirk because you guys work so well together.
Well, and also he's in, we saw on that Netflix, but he's in peak physical condition.
He is.
So the ability to come back from these injuries is not like mere mortals, right? They're already the strongest, healthiest they possibly can be. So they're starting ahead on some of these injuries where everybody else might take a full year. Mm-hmm. Again, Aaron Rodgers was throwing the ball around the other day. He may be back throwing the ball by the time, winter gets here.
And that's the good thing about Kirk is there's no question he'll do everything.
He's super disciplined.
This is not Dante Culpepper, as Brad Childers said, rehabbing next to the Chinese restaurant in the strip mall in Florida. It's a little different than that.
And not to be devil's advocate, I'm just throwing this out there. He has not come straight out and said that, but whenever anybody, a head coach or a GM, it's most likely a GM says he's our guy, he's not your guy. Whenever someone goes, oh yeah, I love so-and-so, he'll, blah, blah, blah. They're always let go. They're always fired or they're always traded.
When Jim said that, part of my mind did say, okay, that's the important thing for Kirk to hear today.
Yes.
He has a long road ahead of him, right? So if you're the head coach, you're managing morale, you're trying, right? You do say that today, but I did actually think that too. It's like, well, let's see what he says in May.
I'm like, please don't say that. That's a kiss of death. And I'll say that in the sports office all the time. Like, nope, he is our guy going forward. I go, he gone. I just say he gone.
What I always said about Ron Gardenhire was, if he was ripping you, it's because he wanted you to be better. Mm-hmm. If he was praising you, it was because he was about to get rid of you.
Ooh, interesting.
His tell was that clear?
It was like, okay, God, Joe's got to play more. Joe's got to carry. If he would rip the players he valued because he was demanding. If he said, oh man, I tell you what, that Trevor Plouffe, he's playing great for us. It was like, I've given up trying to make him better, so I might as well just compliment him before we get rid of him.
So let me ask you this: do you guys think that now the mind set on quarterbacks is shifting a little bit, right? Because for a while there, it was like, hey, let's take the top pick, the top draft pick, and let's Russell Wilson, woo, in their younger days, like they can just turn them into stars, Patrick Mahomes. And we're seeing that they don't always last, right? So is the mindset, I think it is shifting a little bit to more, maybe it's like a goaltender. Sometimes the head and the physical have to be together. It takes a little time to develop. Like the whole Brett Favre, he wasn't a star right out of the gate. Like some of these best NFL quarterbacks are made and not in college. I don't know. I see it maybe a slight shift back to that, but
I think teams that are truly bad will always draft a young quarterback, A, hoping that they get the next Mahomes, B, because it buys you time. Well, you can't fire us. We're just starting to develop this guy. Well, he's only in his second or third year. I think it's a defense. I think it's a lottery ticket and a defense mechanism all in one. But I think the Vikings are in that fascinating position where they're competitive every year. They're good every year. And Kirk has played better under O'Connell than he played previously. And I just wouldn't throw that away. And I'm somebody I was hard on Cousins during the Zimmer years because I didn't think he handled a lot of things well. And I understand now because Zimmer
One thing that came out is how uncomfortable that must have been every single day going into work with someone who your boss basically doesn't think you should be there.
Not only did Zimmer hate him, the players like Everson Griffin, who were Zimmer guys, hated him too.
Right.
It's hard to lead when your coach and some of the veteran players aren't on your side. And I think O'Connell did a great job of kind of clearing the way for Cousins to be a true leader, and Cousins, to his credit, stepped up and did it.
And in some way, shape, or form during that whole regime, it was offense against defense.
Yeah.
It was offense against defense. And I'm not saying there weren't friendships or any of that, but, with Zimmer being a defensive guy, I think it was shocking to me when I found out they don't even talk. When they had to specifically set meetings, like we're going to talk once a week now. And I'm thinking, you guys haven't done that? Like you don't talk to your starting quarterback? Like that was shocking to me.
But even behind the scenes, for several times, like if you were in the building for other reasons, business reasons, Zimmer, there was no acknowledging other humans.
No.
In the building. Whereas, when I go over there for meetings now, if you don't run into KOC in the hallway that often, but if you happen to be passing, he does acknowledge, he says hi. He'll say good morning.
He's a nice guy.
It's not an uncomfortable workplace. And at the base of it, if your workplace is uncomfortable, you're not going to perform.
Nope. And I'm going to tell, we have an occasional segment called What They Don't Tell You, where we tell behind the scenes stories. I'm going to tell you this one. I've heard this through several people in the Vikings organization. So like Zimmer's last year, I think it was Zimmer's last year. They're playing Detroit at home. My Sunday morning column on the Vikings is they lose this one, they're going to have to fire everybody. I mean, they were just at the point where nothing was working. The atmosphere on the team was terrible. The Lions weren't that good. If you're going to lose this one, it's over for everybody, right? First of all, I was told that people in the Vikings media relations department made sure that none of the brain trust saw my column. They didn't put it in the clips package they usually put out. They didn't want anybody reading it. But Kirk saw it. So do you remember when Kirk leads the last second drive, they go out, they kick the game-winning field goal, and Cousins turns and grabs Zimmer?
Yes.
And Zimmer looked like he wanted to punch him?
Yeah.
Kirk was going, I saved your job.
Assuming he knew. Assuming he
knew.
Saw it. Oh, my goodness.
He said, I saved your job. And he shakes Zimmer. And Zimmer doesn't know what he's talking about and also hates him. So it looks like he's going to punch him. And then has to realize that I'm on national TV. I better not punch my quarterback. And he settles it down. But Cousins was referring.
He was excited.
He was like,
I saved
your job. And I'm sure he was partly saying it like, hey, we won the game. Partly of, give me some freaking credit, jerk.
Right. It's funny. Kirk reads everything.
Yep.
And I did not have to work for Mike Zimmer. I liked Mike Zimmer. I got along with Mike Zimmer. So from all the stories that come out, I'm in the minority, and maybe because my dad is from Brooklyn. I'm not saying my dad is like Zimmer, but I've known a lot of Brooklyn tough kind of person that it doesn't scare me. I know you're not mad at me, so I'm going to say whatever I want. But things maybe it should have bothered me more. But if it were directed to me, I probably wouldn't like it. No, but with that said, I remember that. And now that you say that, because Kirk does not have a mean bone in his body, so that all makes sense now. Oh my goodness.
Yeah. Okay. Now we're going to talk to Andrea about Aurora and some other women's sports issues. Once again, we want to thank Rudy Luther Toyota, longtime sponsor, of the podcast and the network.
Ready for a women-forward car dealership? Rudy Luther Toyota empowers their many women on staff in sales, management, and service. Whether you are looking for a new Toyota or pre-owned vehicle, Rudy Luther Toyota has something for everyone. Every vehicle comes with a Luther Advantage. 10 cents off fuel and car wash discounts at holiday stations, Luther Advantage warranty, and 5-day return policy on pre-owned vehicles. Located just 5 minutes west of downtown Minneapolis, off 394 and General Mills Boulevard. And they're also hiring. Want to join the team but don't know where to start? Visit rudyluthertoyota.com today.
Also want to let you know that all energy solar panel installations are done right and made easy thanks to more than 14 years of experience in Minnesota and beyond. All Energy Solar is ready to take any solar project from design to installation and everything in between. That refers to home, business, or both. Find out more about going solar at allenergysolar.com/coach, or just go to allenergysolar.com and learn everything you know about solar. We're all headed in that direction. Also, we are just building this show as we go, and it's been a blast. If you know anybody who wants to get in early on the ground floor of sponsoring this podcast, reach out to our great sales executive, Karen Cleary, KCLEARY at talknorth.com. And now, Dawn, why don't you start the conversation with Andrea?
Andrea, I've been so excited to get you on the show because it's dear for me, and Jim's on the same page with me. Why I wanted my own podcast and to have Jim basically be the anchor and the lead for it with me is I want to empower women without excluding men. There's so many people that I want to empower women. I want to have the women's voice, and they diss men. And I have come from a home of 4 brothers, no sisters. I love my dad. I think men are inherently amazing. So I never want to alienate the men by thinking, hey, the sisterhood. And every time I think of someone who thinks along the same lines as me, you come to mind. And we've had discussions like this that haven't been on air like it's going to be right now. But I wanted to have you on, Jim wanted to have you on, because to have men like Jim and Brandon, our producer, to support women and are not afraid if a woman has an opinion, not afraid if a woman stands up and says something, not afraid if, like, oh, God forbid, she may say something that may make you a little angry. It's important. It's important to have a strong voice. So I wanted your strong voice. And also, yes, I call you a guru, but you're educated, and you started in sports, and people would be like, well, why is she? I'm like, at Boston College, you're a sports writer and an editor, and you and I share a early mentor, in Jackie McMullen and a few other people.
Jackie's great.
But
she was amazing.
We come from that Jackie McMullen school of thought.
Yeah. But along the lines of men, if I may embarrass Jim for a moment, he knows this. So when I was at KFAN way back in the day as the only female, I got sent to spring training for 2 weeks. And every day, Jim was a beat writer for the paper at the time. He made sure that I was invited to dinner. So I was young. I was the only female probably in the entire county working at, covering the Twins. And every day, Jim made sure, hey, we're going here to eat, or right, come join us. And so instead of being like, first of all, sports radio was new as well. I mean, it was being done in Boston, but it certainly wasn't being done out here, right? So first of all, it's radio. She's female. She's young. She's not from here. Instead of being all strikes against me, Jim made sure I was always included with the group. And that allowed me not only to get to know Jim, but Rob Anthony at the time was PR at the Twins. He's now assistant general manager, but he was assistant PR at the time. We were the same age. We were at the same place in our lives. It allowed me to then safely get to know others. So even like Tom Kelly, it's like I came in under sort of the safe umbrella because by going to dinner with Jim, I got to know Rob. So therefore, Rob was able to say to Tom, hey, she needs some sound. Make sure, Tom was someone who would easily say no. And instead, that allowed people to help me do my job so that I was able to turn back into the station the things they needed for the day, which then makes you successful. Whereas if you're roadblocked along the way, you don't get that credibility, you don't get to talk to the manager, then you're done. And then your bosses are like, why don't you have any sound from the Twins today? Mm-hmm. And you can't say, well, they wouldn't let the girl in. That's not an answer. You have to figure out a way. And luckily, because of Jim, Dan Barrero is someone that, I owe a tremendous amount for, because Jackie McMillan introduced me to Dan and Dan introduced me around town. I wouldn't be here without them. I truly wouldn't.
What do you think is the greatest lesson that you had to learn in those situations early?
One lesson, you and I have talked about this, is don't ask a question if you really don't know what you're talking about. Like, don't talk for the sake of talking. And what I quickly learned in spring training too is everybody, you're in a room with people like Jim, let them ask the questions. I just needed to get sound. My voice didn't need to be heard. I just needed to make sure I captured what was being said. So don't try to insert yourself unnecessarily. Like, I didn't feel the need to flex. It was enough that I was there. It was enough that proving my way was showing up on time, getting the job done that I was hired to do. It wasn't being the most memorable person that asked the question. That wasn't my job. Right. And so I think for me, it was truly understanding what needed to get done and focusing on that and not worrying about all the other things that were happening around me, because that wasn't my responsibility.
What do you think is the number one thing that people at home don't know about women kind of breaking in that way?
I think that the hardest thing that people assume is that we don't actually love sports as much as the guys do. And this has recently been a topic with the whole Taylor Swift, Travis Kelce, is this assumption that I can't love football and love Taylor Swift. It's like, well, I've been watching football since I was 8 and we moved to Baltimore. And that's what my dad and I did, was we watched the Colts every weekend. I mean, I've spent more money traveling the country watching Taylor Swift than I probably want to admit. Both things can be true. And I think that the assumption, and it doesn't happen as much anymore as it used to, but one of my favorite things used to be when I had boys. The boys would come over. I'd say, sure, we'll host the fantasy football draft at our house. And I'd hear them talking smack about something. And then just being able to step into the room of a bunch of 12-year-old boys, drop a bunch of knowledge that honestly, I probably heard on the radio that morning or read in the newspaper. It wasn't like my own gleaned knowledge, but drop that knowledge and then leave the room and have these boys' faces be like, oh my God, your mom just schooled us on football. It's still, to me, it's like, we had so much fun at the Twins games. Right. That was the first time in my life I have been at a sporting event like that with all women. And we had a blast. We were so into that baseball game, you and me and Vanita Sakar, and it was awesome. But we love sports. That's what people at home need to understand. We love sports just as much as the guys do.
And know sports.
And we know our sports.
The intricacies, know. I mean, I could be there with a group of other people. It doesn't have to even be women. That sometimes you go there and they're just there for the social part of it, right? Like, I have a couple of guy friends in mine that are like, do sports, get the points. Like, they don't know. They don't, but they respect the fact that I do. Right. But we were there, all women. We all knew the situations, the people, just everything. And it was a blast. It was.
Right. And also, just because, and this is true for men too, and I say this to young women a lot when I'm mentoring them, you don't have to have played the sport to be in the business. Andrew Miller does a great job running the Vikings. I don't know this for sure, but I'm pretty sure he can't throw a football, right? I am pretty sure that Dave St. Peter can't throw a 90-mile-an-hour fastball.
Or a fastball 90 feet.
Exactly. So the fact that I don't know how to skate. I didn't grow up learning how to skate. That doesn't make me any less passionate of a Wild fan, because I don't need to know how to skate. You don't need to know how to skate to really cover the team. I mean, I'm going to venture to guess that Michael Russo is probably not a great skater. And he's an amazing hockey writer.
You know, that it reminds me, going back to the Green Bay, I think that's when I first met you up there. You were covering a story up in Green Bay. And you say it was I met you beforehand, right?
I thought we met
in Boston.
The funny thing, you were talking about Rob
Red
Anthony.
Sox.
I remember being out with a group of Twins people in Boston.
That is. Oh my gosh.
And it was like me and Rob Anthony and maybe Mike Herman and maybe another writer or two. And I thought you were Ramsey, and you were in the group.
Oh, Ramsey. Oh my goodness. I haven't thought of him in so long.
I just had a brain explosion, because I'm like, okay, I know I've met you before. And then we re-met when I was covering the Packers when I was in Milwaukee. But yes, because that was so weird for me, because I was working behind the scenes with CBS, but I was doing some freelance all at the Red Sox and, like stage managing and doing all that. But yes, because Jim was part of the broadcast team and also Tim Scanlon.
Tim Scanlon
Tim
was there.
Scanlon
Yep.
and I were friends.
Midwest sports.
Yep.
Yes, Tim Scanlon, who went on to be such a big guy over at ESPN and now is with Octagon as an agent.
Mm-hmm.
So a shout out to Tim Scanlon, who is still one of the best men you'll ever meet in the sports world.
He's great.
Absolutely. And that's how I met you.
Yep.
So it just brings me back to, I was saying in Green Bay, and this guy, Ross Verba, offensive lineman, good guy. But I remember he was mad, and I asked a question after a game. And he said to me, "You ever play professional football?" And so I'm a wise ass, right? I mean, I was raised with 4 boys. So
You
immediately,
haven't seen my tight end stats? I'm like,
immediately I go, not since my sex change. And I said that. Like, it's like now I might think twice because, I'm in Minnesota and blah, blah. But right then I was just like, no, not since my sex change. And he just started laughing. And he looked down and he goes, I'm a jerk. I am so sorry. Would you ask that question again? Right. So sometimes you just, rather than as a woman, you can't be upset in those situations. But yeah, I'm here because I know the sport and I know that there are issues with with that drive or whatever. I didn't have to play the game.
and I'd love to do a survey of everyone who covers sports, radio, TV, newspaper, blogs, now podcasts. What percentage actually ever played past high school?
Right. Almost
It's
nobody.
probably a tiny little,
Almost nobody.
which is probably why we all ended up on the other side,
Well,
right? Because
that's part of it.
honestly, if I could throw a football like that, I'd go get that paycheck.
Sure.
Be great. It'd be
Hey,
a
I
stunning
played rugby
story.
in college. I'm ahead of some of those.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, the analogy in baseball is always that the best managers are utility infielders and backup catchers because they had to
Learn.
think
Mhm.
every day. They had to be ready they were just scrapping to hold on to the last spot on the roster, and they had to know everything, and they had to give themselves every possible chance of surviving as long as they could. Whereas if you're a star player, you just go, okay, I'm going to go hit a double and not think about how, just I'm talented, and talented people didn't have to think about it. So they don't necessarily know how to run a game or a team. Well, in sports, let's think of this. Joe Mauer might be the greatest Minnesota athlete of all time. When you look at Hall of Fame catcher, first 3 batting titles ever won by an American League catcher, MVP, could have played in the NFL. Probably it was a great basketball player. By the way, would have been a great college basketball player if he decided to go that way. And can you imagine Joe on a doing our jobs? No, he couldn't do it.
No.
And I'm not knocking Joe.
But he
doesn't need to do it.
And he doesn't like it.
And he doesn't like it, but he doesn't even think that way. He doesn't think, okay, yeah, I'm going to sit in the press box. I'm going to analyze this game. I'm going to watch every pitch. And then I'm going to go ask the starting pitcher why he threw that stupid backdoor curveball on 3-2. Not only would he not want to do it, I don't think he could bring himself to go down and ask that question. It's a certain mindset. It's a discipline. It's a job. And you don't need to have played the sport. You need to educate yourself about the sport, and you need to know how to ask a question. You need to know, and especially in the newspaper side, you need to know how to work sources.
Well, you also need to know how to write.
And you need to know how to write. Because
And that skill is still, to me, the one that is the hardest. Because we all saw what happened on Sunday. Everybody saw what happened on Sunday. How you then convey that in a story that is relevant, easy to understand, whether or not you're writing your script for TV or you're writing your article, if you can't communicate it to other people, it doesn't matter. And so that skill to me is that last piece. And the difference between people who just want to sit around and watch sports and be able to talk about it and then actually making that into your job is the ability to communicate that feeling of what's happening, the analysis to all the rest of us.
Yeah. And I will also say that a long time ago, I was asked by a national magazine to do a diary with a Minnesota sports figure. And this person I would describe as brilliant at their job. So this person would write what they wanted their diary to be and hand it to me to kind of clean it up and take it on. It wasn't English. It wasn't, you couldn't even understand what they were trying to say. It's just a completely different skill. This person was great at their job, brilliant at their job, and couldn't write at a second grade level. This is completely self-serving, but I think we take for granted people who can actually write because there just aren't that many of us.
Right. Well, or talk, right?
Or talk,
Chad
yeah.
Greenway and I talk about this a lot. his first day when he got signed as a rookie, the doors just open. And he talks about walking down the hall with Bob Hagan and sort of Bob Hagan kind of saying to him, okay, just remember like these two things. The doors open, all the media is sitting there, and Chad's put down at a table. You know, he's a kid that grew up in South Dakota, went to Iowa, had not been in that situation, but he's an extrovert. He likes to talk. He's always been a good talker. And it's fun because when him and I are out at events, like we can stay out for 6 hours because we're both extroverts. And so when we're working together, our energy just gets up. But you put somebody else in that situation who's not comfortable talking, who doesn't have that self-confidence, they're just going to shut down. And
which is important, right?
Right.
That's well, I remember back to Chad's rookie year. He did not seem like he was that outgoing at first.
He was not.
Right.
He was a little paranoid.
Right.
First.
Like the fact that he's an extrovert, we know it now, but no, you would not.
Right.
And so you have to learn that on your own.
Yep.
And then the personality comes out.
Let's wrap up this show with Andrea just updating us on what's going on with the Minnesota Aurora, your changing role there, and what you see for the near future or the long-term future.
Yeah, so no, we've had an exciting off season. We announced a second team. So Aurora 2 will be starting in the spring of 2024, otherwise known kind of as a reserve team to soccer nerds. But there's so many talented young women in our market. We wanted to have an opportunity for more of the local talent to be able to play in the Aurora system. So we're in a league called the UPSL, and it'll play in the metro area. So it'll be a lot of metro area soccer players. We're going to the high school girls soccer semifinals this afternoon. You know, it'll be space for high school students, but also because part of our mission is to get people more experience on and off the soccer field, more opportunities for assistant coaches, more opportunities for interns, and just more. So we're really excited about that. Our head coach, Nicole Lukic, is now full-time. So she was year-round part-time before. She's now full-time. So she's overseeing that Aurora 2 and the development there. We have hired a new president and COO. So I had been acting as a team president, and now I'm stepping out of that role. So Jessica Poole, who comes to us from college athletics, a really wonderful administrator as you talk about, we built this while we were flying the plane. Now we really need to make sure that all the parts are there and the engine is there, because if we're going to go pro in the future, when we go pro in the future, the foundation has to be really strong on the business side. So we've got Jessica coming in. We have a new VP of marketing that started a few weeks ago, a new VP of sponsorships, all of which will allow people to be working on Aurora full time. And it's exciting. So if you think about where we are right now with volunteers and part-timers, now we have a bunch of grown-ups at the table working there full time. The future is just going to continue to be so bright for us because they're dedicated to it every day. And what we're going to be able to keep doing is amazing. So we're hoping to add camps in the future and clinics and just really start having more Aurora.
There's a huge groundswell for this team that has been built so quickly and so imprinted already on the sports brains of Minnesotans. But what I really love about you walk the walk in terms of you want to empower these players and giving them a platform. They can speak their minds. You know, your team stands for things, but also if they go pro, you're proud that they leave. You know, it's almost like a college program where a certain amount of success means that they're going to leave, and they may not come back, but they may come back if the seasons mesh together. But I believe you have 8 professional players.
We
now?
do. And we lost 2 assistant coaches in the offseason getting full-time Division I jobs.
Wow.
So we have 2 of our assistants got assistant Division I women's soccer jobs, and one of them, in fact, Boston College fired their soccer coach today.
Really?
Yeah. And so I actually just sent that to one of our assistant coaches being, hey, are you ready to move up to a head coaching level? Because there's a job open at my alma mater. But yeah, the thing is I was having this conversation with someone from the Vikings, actually, because the Wilfs own Orlando City and the Orlando Pride. We have a former player that applied for a job down there. And so I forwarded her resume and just said, hey, and they said, thank you very much. You know, it's great to see Aurora recommendations. And I said, look, our mission, we want to have Aurora people everywhere, right? Whatever it is that you want to do in sports, if that's what you want to do, if we can help you get there everyone needs that first start. Everyone needs the first thing on their resume. And so many people don't get that chance because they don't know the right person or there weren't enough positions. And so our goal is just give everybody that first start and help them get to the next level. And so, yeah, when I'm seeing pictures of our players in front of the Eiffel Tower,
Yes.
and I saw one yesterday doing her tour of Athens because she's playing in Greece, it just makes me so happy.
Well, for years, men have had that pipeline. And I'm not saying that women haven't been helping other women when in those positions. The pipeline hasn't been there. So you're creating a pipeline and you're showing other women you need to reach back and help. And you're putting your money where the mouth is, right? You know, like, all right, we're going to have to find someone else and train someone else because we're really lifting someone else up. So
Right. And also just proving that women can run teams.
Yes.
Right. That we can run teams. That we are running a team. We are running a team well. And that's an important statement to make.
It's like Laura Oakman said last week. She said the business that we're in, broadcast business, has changed so much. And with her Galvanize group that she has in her company that she's put together, she says, you know what? Now I'm training people to be CEOs and to run teams. Like sometimes it's not just enough just to be on the sidelines and reporting. If that's what you want, that is fantastic. But we're here to help each other up, that if you want to run the team, if you want to do whatever, it's not just here's your place.
Right. And these are your only paths. And that's part of what we're trying to say to young women is, do you really want to be a lawyer, but you love sports? Half the legal department at the Vikings is female.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
And they're brilliant. Right. It's like, no, there's all these jobs. Do you like sales? Do you medical? We had our team doctor is a female. One of our players shadowed her this summer because she wants to go to medical school and be an orthopedic surgeon. And so she just shadowed Dr. Hikes.
Can we give a shout out to Dr.
We
Hikes,
can,
by the
yes.
way, who has put my knee back together?
Yes.
And my
put
leg.
Your
Yes.
leg.
She had a busy summer.
Jerry Holt, Star Tribune photographer. I mean, we're just spreading the wealth, but whew,
Yeah.
amazing.
Yeah, she's very rare in the orthopedic surgeon business for sports as a female like that. And she's wonderful.
And you just gave me an opening too.
Is that a HIPAA violation that I just outed Jerry?
I think we're going to let it go. So, by the way, Dr. Hikes, you might want to be at Licks on December 2nd. My band is playing. We're celebrating Dawn Mitchell's birthday,
Yes.
Jerry Holt's birthday.
Yes.
All knee rehabilitations. Anybody with a
we're gonna
bad
be
knee should show up.
Awkward
We're all going to be
dancing.
Awkward
dancing.
dancing.
No, I'm going to be fully dancing by
You're
then.
gonna
I've
have
been
an
working so hard on
The
it.
great thing is you're going to have an excuse for dancing badly. I don't have the excuse. I just
Yeah,
dance
but you'll
badly.
be playing.
I'll be
so-
playing, yes. But seriously, come out December 2nd. I think the band will probably start about 9 p.m. Follow us on social media. We'll update you as it gets closer. But probably play like 9 to midnight. Dawn's bringing a bunch of people. My wife's bringing a bunch of people. Jerry's bringing a bunch of people. It's going to be a blast. So
You're not bringing people, Jim?
I don't really have people.
You have us.
You have people.
I don't have any people who will admit that they're my people. Let's put it
I
that way.
admit I'm your people
Okay.
all the time.
Well,
Yeah, me too.
You can be.
I'm in there.
Then you guys can be my people.
Okay,
How
thank
about
you.
that?
Are we going to sing like a song together, the three of us?
Oh, nobody wants me singing.
Dawn is. We play a rock and roll version of Sweet Caroline. So Dawn will be helping out with the chorus.
Oh, he wants me to go bump, bump, bump.
Yes.
Well,
So
you are
good,
from
so good.
Boston, so
Yes.
you need to
That's
do
true.
that.
That's true.
Yeah.
I might have to like steal the mic and come up with a solo.
Okay,
Ooh.
you can do that.
She just said that publicly, and
She said-
we heard it,
and
and
we
it's
are-
been
Sweet Caroline.
recorded.
Now we have to hold her to it.
Yeah.
Yes. Hey, this is great.
Thank you so much.
Thanks so much
Oh,
for
thank
coming
you.
in.
Thank you
Blast
for
to
having
see
me.
you. Dawn, any final thoughts?
You know, if you can see it, you can be it. And we're seeing Minnesota Aurora. We're seeing you. Women can create their own path. And don't forget to help. And you don't exclude men along the way. And you don't have to be a pro sport athlete to do our jobs. And I just want to thank you so much for walking the walk, talking the talk, putting your money where the mouth is, all those cliches. You are it to a T. And I want to thank you because I'm so proud of you. And everywhere, I've got family wearing Minnesota Aurora stuff out there saying, there's a what team? A where? And what are they doing? And how many people showed up? It's amazing.
Oh, thank you.
So
We
kudos
would
to
not be here without both of your constant support, like never ending willingness to hear our ideas and talk about it and support us. So Thank
we're
you
doing
both.
Minnesota moments now every
I
show.
heard it.
Minnesota moments every week. We're going to talk. We're going to have a segment on women's sports in general, but then we will also add in the Minnesota Aurora moment. Just a great way to keep reminding people
Thank you.
what's possible.
That's awesome. We got girls soccer championships coming up now. So
Yes.
we'll see what happens in the state.
Woo woo.